Afternoon, sir. Just one of those days.
Hello, Andre. One of those days. Are you prepared to share, or is it just, let's just move on?
Sir, it's like, after these whole assignments, because it's just been group work. Besides your course, but it's basically been group work assignments, and that fatigue afterwards, it's just settling.
Because there's always somebody in a group that does more than the others, right?
Yeah.
And he's trying to get hold of everybody, and it's just, no. I understand the frustration. Last year for this particular module, I did a group session as well. But it was a bigger group. It was with the number of students that I have as HCM students this year. It's a bit difficult to have a constructive group work assignment, for instance. But again, it's a frustration. But group work, I think, is important. But you can you're quite right. You summarize it correctly. It's very taxing. It drains you. I'm not going to do doom and gloom today. I am very tired. Have to be very honest with you. But again, this morning, you know what? You're not in the best of moods. My dongle, after I did a setup on one of my laptops at home to conduct sessions, because I know that there was going to be load shedding now, and it was a question of load shedding on campus from 10 to 12, and then at home from 12 to 2, and I've got class from 11 till 2. So trying to find a balance between those, but so I had a technological challenges. Everything was set up perfectly this morning. All of a sudden, it doesn't work anymore. That's just as well I tested. And then I drove, and on the way I saw a horrific accident, and somebody just a truck and a car, and you know that the end result's not going to be pleasant there. And you think, you know what? Okay, let's just chill. It's going to be another difficult day, but it's going to be more difficult for some. Anyway, Teresa, I think I'm going to continue regardless of who many join. If I can just give just to summarize what I have planned for this week or the remainder of this week. Although I'm still in the habit of, it's almost like it's strange to start with you guys in personal selling on a Wednesday. It's almost the week is almost you almost feel the week is beginning to finish, and we're only starting now. But again, we have this week and we have next week, and then you have a study week. That's how close we are to it. That's how much you could have to still hang in there to make sure that you successfully get to the end. What I've planned for today and for this week is we are going to finish chapter 13 today on selling services. And we're going to do chapter 14 tomorrow. And we should finish chapter 15 on Friday. And that would be it. So then I can give you feedback next week on your test and your assignments, and that forms part of your revision for your test. Okay, feedback on the test that you wrote, feedback on the assignment that you did, your results, the memo discussion. You can see where you've made your mistakes. I think that's important for me. It's important to because the work that we've done this semester is or since the test is it's not difficult work. It's we did the first 10 chapters, and that was the sort of the backbone of this module, and you've been assessed on it already. So everything that happened beyond that is still important. You will still be assessed on it, but it's the concepts are not strange. The chapter we're busy with now, you did in the first semester, or we touched on it in the first semester, and to a certain extent. Now we're just taking a slightly different angle on it. We're putting a personal selling cap on for selling services. Chapter 14 will be dealing with, again, not necessarily anything that you have not been exposed to before. We're doing B2B, business to business, selling in a business market. How's that slightly different to selling to the consumer? And that's pretty much it. Then we're almost done. Then there's just one chapter left. So that's the plan for the next 2 weeks, or next week and a half. Effectively 2 weeks, because we only start our sessions on Wednesdays. But anyway, what we've done so far in this chapter is we briefly had a look at what the differences between products and services are. And we got to this point where we now are going to classify services according to career opportunities, the services or product services continuum, or tangibility continuum, also referred to, the benefits of services and products, or benefits that a service offers, because we categorize services according to those two. And then obviously the service provider and the customer, the contact. Some cases, services have more contact with the customer, others they have less contact with the customer. Or the customer has less contact with the service provider. Let's look at an example of the last one, for instance. You go to the bank. If it was 10 years ago, for some transactions, you still go into the bank. Now you have the option of, through the automated system, to either do it online, because you can do it after hours now. If you want to draw money or withdraw money, you can do it through ATM after hours as well. So your interaction, your contact with the service provider, the bank, is not as direct as it was maybe 10, 15 years ago. Okay, that's an example of that particular category of or class of service. Right, let's look at each of them individually. Career opportunities. What types of careers can you do qualify as a service? Excuse me. Let's go to the next slide. Career opportunities in services selling. You could be selling insurance. You can sell real estate, holiday, recreation and leisure. Okay. Hotel, hospitality services, banking services, security, financial planning. There's a lot, eh? We sometimes sit and say, oh, and then even among those different options, there are even more divisions below these in each of these career paths. For instance, in real estate, you can actually, in real estate, you could be offering the service, the legal service of the conveying of the transaction and registering it with the deeds office, for instance. Or you could actually be in this actual selling part of it, where you are selling the house itself, for instance. Okay, right. More career opportunities. And I think there's many, many more that we obviously have not listed, but that has surfaced, especially in the last 18 months, where people maybe had somebody that did a particular job for them, or maybe did a job themselves. Now they actually, now somebody came up and said, listen, I'll be doing all of these for you. They were forced to basically develop new opportunities that was not maybe available previously, or pre-COVID, so to speak. Home improvement, garden services, health and fitness, the wellness industry is picking up, but more sort of the home trainer coming to your house, or training in a communal open space. When I left for work this morning, there were people in the security complex that I stay. There's a little next to In the center of the facility, there's a restaurant and recreational facilities and sports fields. And there were people already going through the motions outside, a group of about 15 people. So you can see that's already the change in season. People are going out. But that's a trainer that says, well, guys, I don't know where you're from, but we're going to be doing this outdoor training today, and this is where we're doing it. Again, very popular nowadays, these outdoor recreational activities. And somebody does it. Somebody is getting paid by either all the participants individually, or maybe by an organization that offer that service to whoever or to the residents of a particular estate, for instance. Right. If we look at the second category, that's where we look at the product service continuum, or also, as I said, referred to as the Tangibility Continuum. You'll find that on the right top left corner, we've got our real products. They are totally tangible: a house, a bar of soap, piece of a tube of toothpaste. They are all products. You can use soap and salt and toothpaste to play a prank on somebody, but it's still soap and salt and soup. Okay. You can maybe use soup in a recipe, but it's not going to change its form. It's still going to be soup. Right. Then you have right on the bottom right-hand corner, service intensive services. Center bottom, relative peer services. They are completely intangible. Okay. They are pure services: teaching, selling insurance, financial services, garden services. Okay, and then we find the hybrids right in the middle. If it was and I think if we look at, I think I've got another image, that one over there, the services continuum. You find right in the middle, fast food outlets. They are hybrids over there, which means that they are businesses that offer a service, but they will not be able to offer that service without the product itself. Okay, and in between our pure services and our pure products in the top left corner, and our pure products, services right here in the bottom center. If we follow the arrows, in the middle are the hybrids, and then you have your services or service intensive products. In other words, it's a product, but it comes with a service. Okay, it is you buying a car, which would be among those: house, salt, soup, car. But you find that a car, for instance, is not just a product, because it comes with a maintenance plan. It comes with repairs that needs to be done. Okay, so that's the extra. So that's why it is not a pure product, but it is a service-intensive product. It's a product, but it also comes with a service, as opposed to the service-intensive services, which is basically a service like an airline, but they need a type of product, like a plane, like a seat, to be able to perform that particular service. Right. The continuum we've looked at. We've discussed everything that you see on the screen as well. And by the way, if we're done today, we're done. I'm not going to, I might extend the session, so we might go beyond the 40 minutes. But I'm not going to start a new chapter today. I'm going to start a new chapter tomorrow. I'm going to just finish chapter 13 today. Okay. Core benefits. Some services are physical acts, and some are just intangible. Services can also be performed on a person, like cutting somebody's hair, somebody getting a tattoo, you going to the doctor. Those are all services that's performed on the person itself. Without the person, the service will not be complete. Or it can be performed on an object. Okay, the garden service, for instance. It's performed on an object, the garden. Okay, they're going to mow the grass, and they're going to work the edges, and they're going to trim the trees. It will help to understand the differentiation opportunities in services marketing and create 4 dimensions. Okay, we're not going to go into detail with that. Then we also find, like I said at the beginning, your service provider and the customer or the client. There's a specific relationship that also puts these services in a particular category. Okay, and it can be done in 3 ways. It can be that the customer goes to the service provider. You go to the hairdresser to have your hair cut. It could be that the service provider goes to the customer. That is where the garden services come to your home. Okay. Or it could be conducting a service transaction at an arm's length by doing it through email, your online service, your help desk, for instance, your computer, your IT support service. You have a problem and there's a help option. You click on the help option and somebody from HP or from Dell who's online, you can chat via email or whatever format they offer, and they will assist you in solving your problem, for instance. It can be done telephonically as well. There are various ways, but it's actually the product, the service is still offered, but the service provider and a customer doesn't necessarily have to be in the same room. Okay. Services outlets can be situated at a single location, or it could be at multiple sites. For instance, if you have a restaurant that is a national brand, for instance, like the Spur, you'll find them at different locations, or then it could also just be a local service that's offered just in a particular residential area or in a particular community. At any point in time, you're more than welcome to jump in and provide examples if you just want to check and see if you understand it correctly. Okay, Theresa? Right. What we have also touched on briefly previously is the characteristics of a service, which is one of the most important aspects to remember when we have to decide on how we are going to sell a particular service. Let's look at the intangibility, heterogeneity, inseparability, and perishability of the services. Intangibility, the goods and services, physically touch them. You can touch a can of Coke. I'm looking out the window now and there's a bit of a glare and it's not very hot, but it's weird weather. But my throat is dry. I would love it. That's why I use the example of a Coke now. I could actually see myself drinking a Coke. I can see those the drops on the side running down the bottle or the can of Coke, it being very cold. Anyway, I'm going to have one after this class. Excuse me, my apologies. So a product you can physically touch. You can use all your senses, the senses of smell, of sight, of taste, the texture that you can touch it, the sense of touching. You can hear sometimes a service. There's the garden services. You can actually hear the lawnmower in the background. You can hear when the hairdresser or the barber uses his machine, his clippers. Service is totally different. There are sometimes parts of the service, and that's where the service that's performed by, for instance, a doctor. Yes, you can touch the doctor, but the doctor is just the service provider, the person providing the service. The service is not the doctor. The service is his ability to diagnose what your problem is and then also prescribe you medication to help you with your problem. That's the service. The doctor itself is just the individual performing it. Okay, so you cannot touch the service. You can physically touch the doctor, but you cannot touch the service, the solution to your problem that he offers you that comes with that particular service. The problem when you're selling a service, and specifically intangibility of service, it can't be stored. You can't take it off a shelf. It cannot be patented because it lacks physical features. Also, the compliance with the communication process is more challenging. It's difficult because you can't show the customer something. They have to experience it themselves before they can benefit from it. And then obviously, it's very difficult when it comes to the pricing. There is a specific 6-month module in one of our third-year courses that deals with services marketing. That's an entire 6 months module on third-year level. That just indicates to you how wide this field is, and pricing is one of the aspects. How do you put a price on something? Because what's valuable to me is not necessarily valuable to you. If I go to a restaurant and it was a great experience, I'll be prepared to pay a bit more for the product and the price that they actually. I'll pay the price that they offer. I'll just maybe tip the waiter or the waitress more because I enjoyed the service. If, however, I had a bad experience, I'm just going to pay the fee, and the person who's offering the service or delivered the service is getting less. So it's very difficult sometimes to put one price on the experience, on the value that the service offer you. That's one of the challenges. How do we reduce that? When you are selling a service, try and emphasize the tangible cues. In other words, the ambiance of the doctor's practice, the music in the background, the hygiene of the facility, the accessibility to parking outside, just the location itself. Those are all tangible aspects that you must then highlight, because the benefit that they will experience from the service, they can't really experience until they actually have done it. Use personal sources of information, okay, do references, create a strong corporate image, very important, and ensure that you invest in your employees, because they can also be part of the quality of the service experience that the customer has. Maybe a receptionist that's very lively and witty and with it and full of energy the whole time, even if she's on the phone or if you are standing right in front of her, just a ray of sunshine and a bundle of energy. That's the kind of employees you want to invest in, because very often that's the first person that you speak to when you call in, and that's the first person that you see when you actually arrive at reception. So very important, and goes very strongly hand in hand with the strong corporate image that you want to create. Oops, I skipped one there. The heterogeneity. It means that it's almost impossible to standardize, because you are working with you have, when you produce a product that goes on a production line through a factory, for instance, there's a quality and assurance that happens. They check the quality checks of the end product to see if all the items are exactly the same, and if it's not, that one that's not are taken out, because it's not ready to actually go out to the customer. With services, it's difficult because you're working with the human element here, and the service that you're going to expect today, based on my maybe emotional state. If I slept badly last night, I might not be as energetic this morning. So if I was very, if I was sparkling yesterday, and you had a great experience, and you told a friend and said you've got to go to that place because oh, the people are so nice and friendly there. And now they do go there, and you actually don't experience it the same because it's the same person, but the mood is different because of your personal circumstances or bad night's sleep or whatever, something that happened in your life, and therefore that impacts on the quality that's of that you will deliver. And that's because that varies, and because of that involvement of the human element, it becomes very difficult to standardize it and offer the same quality of service every time. We strive towards that, but it doesn't necessarily always happen.
So, Jaco, that's what heterogeneity is. Sorry, hi.
That's what heterogeneity is, yes. Are you?
It's
a panic drop now after 6 months of first marketing and now services selling.
What's that?
Is it finally making sense to you now?
Stop it, man. You're saying I'm slow, but yeah.
No, I never.
You said it. It's fine.
No.
But so heterogeneity is something that cannot be standardized.
It cannot be standardized because of the nature of what the service is. The heterogeneity refers to specifically the fact that it cannot be reproduced like a factory or a machine reproduces a particular item. And because there's inconsistency in the quality, that means that, and usually as a result of the human involvement, because a service there needs to be a service provider that usually offers a human element, and it also has the customer that's a human element. And either one of those two are going to be in a different mood or in a different emotional state when they use these other services regularly. If it's the same customer and it's the same service provider, first experience, boom. Second experience, can't duplicate it. You can't put it in the can and duplicate that service. It can be close, or we can strive towards that being repeated. And the more we repeat it, the better we get at it. But because there's the human involvement, the chances that it's going to be exactly the same is very remote.
Yeah. It's different. Okay.
But that's exactly what it means.
And it cannot be reproduced. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and therefore it can't be standardized.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Set a standard that we want to achieve, but we can't standardize the service.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. How do we reduce it? We can try and standardize it, or actually we can't standardize it, but we can strive to repeat our best performance and improve on our best performance. So it's a continuous improved delivery of service, but it's never going to be exactly the same. It will be better or worse than the previous experience. That's the best way I can summarize it. We can try and customize it so it is always the best experience for that particular customer. It might be different for another customer, but because we're not standardizing it but rather customizing it, the experience is the same for each customer. I deliver a service to Andre. Andre is happy with the service. I repeat the same. Andre is happy the next time as well. If I produce exactly the same service to Theresa, she might say, the next time I come back, it wasn't as good as the previous time. Okay, but for Andre, it was good. And that's where, as I said, the involvement, the human element involvement in services makes it difficult to sell in the same manner as a product. Right, inseparability. Customer and service provider must both be there for the service to actually happen. Services are produced, delivered, and consumed at the same time. Okay, I have a toothache. I can't send my brother to the dentist to have my tooth fixed because I hate going to the dentist. Okay, the service can only be performed if the service provider as well as the customer are there at the point where the service needs to happen. Okay, everybody clear on that? Good. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this has already been covered in marketing in the first semester. Okay, I'm just going to highlight certain aspects, and maybe a different angle or a different word brings or enlightens you and make you understand it better. Inseparability could also mean that a direct sale is the only possible channel for distributing many services. That's very true. A direct provider-customer interaction is a special feature and services marketing and can be referred to as the critical incident of or moment of truth. In other words, when you have to complete or rate the service, it very often is very often is the result of how you have experienced that interaction with the service provider. I'm talking from a customer's point of view. Similarly to the service provider, the interaction that you had with the customer is going to help you grade your own service and say, you know what, we could have done better there and there and there. That's why we complete these surveys, so we can get an indication of how the service rates in the eye of the customer, and also where we can actually improve. It's good to do it both ways. It's good to ask this customer to rate the service, but it's also good to rate your own service before you see how the customer rated. Compare it to, find the areas that overlap, and that's the areas that you need to focus on to fix. Problems associated with inseparability. The service provider's physical connection to the service provider causes the provider to become a part of the tangible cues that influences the customer's evaluation of the quality. Because you cannot separate the service provider from the tangible cues that the service provider offers from the customer rating the service's quality. It's part of it. The doctor can offer you an amazing service. He was immediately, he made you feel comfortable. He was spot on with his diagnosis. He gave you the correct medication, and it had the best. But something was wrong. You maybe waited too long. Maybe the people were unfriendly when you were there. Maybe you had to stand because there weren't enough seats in the reception area. Maybe you battled to find parking. Those tangible cues you cannot remove from the customer's experience of the service. It impacts, all of that collectively impacts on how the customer experienced the service. And that makes it very difficult, as I said, just to sell the service. Because how do you sell a doctor's service? Aren't they all supposed to be okay? I mean, if he's a doctor and if he's passed, then he should know, they should all know the same, shouldn't they? We know.
They should all, there should be a standard.
And there is a standard. I know for a fact There is a standard, but we all know that, and I wondered sometimes that now this is very much tongue in cheek. I always wondered why they just put the qualification on the wall, framed on the wall, and not what they got for anatomy or what they got for physiology. Because maybe they got 60 in anatomy. Say, oh, what 40% didn't you understand of anatomy? It might be the 40% that's going to save my life today.
The 40% that he's doing on you.
So, but no, as I said, very tongue in cheek. There is a certain standard. If we can't, if it doesn't cut it, you can. I saw from, and my first year roommate at varsity was is a medical doctor now. He did fantastically well. So did one of his other friends. In the second year, no, it was towards the end of the second year, where they started taking scalpels on cadavers, okay, dead corpses that they actually used to teach them a technique of, you can't cut a living individual, so they use those corpses, cadavers they call them, to practice on, and that person couldn't do it. And again, there's a certain standard. You obviously not all are going to become physicians, but that's the only way, because a doctor has certain tools to his availability to see what's inside your body. But if you go to the GP because you've got a pain in your left ear, he can't cut off your ear to look inside and see what's going on. So I'm not suggesting it's a guessing game. I'm just suggesting it's very difficult, and that's why when they train, they cut open all these so they can see, because those corpses have been donated and they're used for that particular training purpose. That gives you a look inside. So at least you know what it looks like inside, and you're not just doing three-dimensional videos and pictures and stuff like that. It gives you a real feel. And some people don't cut it, and if they don't cut it, then sorry, you're not going to continue. I mean, go find something else, become a dentist or whatever. No, I'm joking. No, I think it's very difficult, and therefore, when you are selling a service like a doctor's practice, for instance, location, the ambience, the whole atmosphere when you get there. Available parking, all of these things add value to the experience, or if it adds value to experience, the service will be perceived to be a better quality service, because the doctor himself, that his contribution should be standard or can be standardized, because the qualification that they obtained and the training they got is standardized. Okay, involvement of the customer in the service production process varies from that the customer be physically present to receiving the service, the customer to be only present only to begin and to end of the service. Yeah, that's like if there's a personal interaction, you're going to a doctor, or you're going to a dentist, or you're going to a hairdresser, for instance. Because of that personal interaction there is, it can pose a problem, because you might have a problem with that particular person. Maybe the hairdresser's odor is not that great today. And also sometimes the involvement of the individual is limited to certain parts of the service. For instance, the hairdresser doesn't always necessarily wash your hair. They have got washers who do that, and then they have people who cut the hair. So not just one person is involved in delivering that service. Sometimes just at the beginning, sometimes just the end, and sometimes never, because it can be an online service that you never see or meet the person that has assisted you to resolve a problem. More problems, interaction among customers. It could also be that other people involved Maybe there's a very annoying, let's say for instance, there was a discussion on the radio the other day, because I think they have, which airline was it? I'm not sure if it was Emirates, but no, I don't think it's Emirates. I think it's a Japanese airline. Yeah, I think it's a Japanese airline. They were the first ones who now offer, when you book your seat on a plane, which most people do online nowadays. You go into a site, you see the plane, you can pick a seat. They have indicated with a little image which seats are for children, because a lot of customers have complained about small children on a plane, and because it's tough for them. It's very often a first experience. They don't like it. Many people who are adults don't like flying. So you can imagine how anxious it must be for a young child, especially with the ears. Yeah, it's just not a good experience for a majority of them. And then it could be that the child, little babies cry for anything, and they actually cry for two reasons: they're either hungry or they're wet. So that you can't, on a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour flight, you can't prevent them from flying, and you also can't anticipate that that's never going to happen in flight. So they've decided that they're going to provide you with the choices. You can now see, okay, that's where the children that have booked already are on the plane, and you can book elsewhere. So it's away from where they are, which is just another way that they are trying to address the challenges that come with the service that they provide. People will rate the service of, or let me rather rephrase this. The experience that you have on a plane as a result of other people's behavior. In this case, I've given the example of young children and crying children or sick children, for instance. And you know what? I mean, you try and keep a 5-year-old busy on a plane. Okay, it's tough. Okay, there's only so much time that they can spend on the screen in front of them, watching a movie or whatever. And for domestic flights, you won't even find that. So to keep them entertained is challenging. And that can impact on how a customer rates a particular service. In other words, other people's behavior. You go to a restaurant, you have a bad experience in the restaurant because your food was late, your food was cold, it wasn't prepared correctly, or the waiter wasn't good. No, because somebody else made a scene in the restaurant at a different table, and that impacted on your all-over experience. That's an additional challenge that we are often faced with. How do we reduce it when we sell? The inseparability. Train your staff. Train your staff what to expect and to get better at what they are not good at. Customer management, often pairing the right employee with a particular customer. You know that certain individuals, certain of your employees are better with certain customers, certain types of customers. That's what you will obviously then, you would rather allocate them to certain customers. Okay. Mass production only in certain cases, when, let's say, for instance, hotels and these kind of things where you can reproduce the physical cues of that service. But the actual service itself, it's very difficult to repeat that or to mass produce that. Perishability. Cannot store it. It has to happen at the same time. It has to happen now. You can buy something in a can or in a bottle. You could put it in the fridge. Obviously, if it's a perishable item like milk, for instance, you can't use it, keep it in the fridge indefinitely. It has an expiry date, but the fact is that you don't have to use it until you need it. Where unfortunately, when it's a service, once the service is produced, you no longer have it available to offer to somebody else. Okay, once you've missed your, literally, example of you taking a flight from Johannesburg to Cape Town. If you've missed your flight, you'll have to book again. You can't buy a ticket that has a specific date on it and then decide, no, I'm not going to go on that, I'm going to go on a different date and expect that still to be available. If you've missed it, you've missed it. Okay, where you can store the product, a physical, tangible product, and you can use it whenever you feel like it. You can't do that with a service. Problem is selling a service associated with perishability. Because you can't keep it in stock, there are three different supply and demand scenarios that can arise. There could be a very high demand, where the demand is higher than the supply. Okay, then usually if the demand is higher than the supply, there might be some anxiousness amongst customers because there are not enough service providers to provide that service, and therefore the service provider might not deliver the best service or the service that is expected because they are trying to satisfy the increased demand. Where the demand is lower than the supply, it could also mean that because the service provider is struggling to find customers because the demand is very low, that they offer better service because they have more time to spend with a particular customer. It also then means that maybe the service is going to be slightly more expensive then because the demand is lower than the supply. And then you have a situation where supply and demand is at the optimum level, which is great because that means that if that is the case, you can actually, even if it's just temporary, you can employ additional staff to address the high demand. How do you reduce the selling problems that's related to perishability? Let's look at the demand side first. You can offer differentiated pricing. Maybe you can offer additional services or complementary services. Okay. Maybe special promotions, run special promotions. Okay, that is when there are challenges on the demand. When your demand, or it can be when there's a low demand, then you're probably going to try and run specials. When it's a high demand, you're probably going to look at offering complementary services. So they will rather use your service than somebody else's, or you can actually differentiate or have a pricing differentiated strategy. On the selling side, on the supply side, yeah, hire part-time staff when there's a peak demand. Share services, that has become very popular now so during COVID, and since then has resulted maybe in businesses that has aligned now and are joining the services that they offer because it's difficult times. Everybody still fine? Yes, Luwanda, you're good. This is the first time that you've actually, I mean, how are you physically? Okay, Luwanda is still trying to battle with his aunt's cat and his laptop. The two don't come see eye to eye at the moment. Right, so where were we? Right, you can just read through that. I'm not going to read it for you. Right. When you're trying to design a delivery channel or marketing channel for services, use the following guidelines. Try and find those tangible, physical manifestations of the service. Try and find, for instance, if you are a hairdresser, try and find, and you always use shampoos and you use specific equipment. Make sure that the marketing channel that you use, that you can control, that you align with suppliers that offer the best quality and that will always have products in stock, for instance. That is going to benefit you and how your service are rated. Because very often, I've seen it the other day when I went for a haircut as well. These ladies are, I mean, those shampoos and conditioners and all kinds of hair products that is displayed at the hairdresser. Usually are products that obviously is used by the hairdresser in the delivery of the service when they use those shampoos and conditioners and highlights and whatever when they work on you in the service delivery, and people like it. So they would rather buy from them. It's just, oh, I can't see this. I don't see this on the shelves in Pick and Pay or in Clicks or whatever. No, you can't. You actually buy it only from our shop, and it's a preferred supplier. So make sure that those things that you can control, that you get high quality, but also reliable suppliers in your channel. Alternative contexts. If you know that somebody of additional, it's like the networking. Ensure that if you cannot include that in your marketing channel, that at least you have a network, a reliable network that you can refer your customers to, because that's also sometimes seen as, I know for a fact. I mean, people sometimes think, but yeah, you're almost sort of losing a customer. Why are you giving? No, it's not a competitor. I'm not going to do a referral to a competitor, for instance. But very often it does happen. When I moved to a different area and it was impossible for me to go to the hairdresser that's been cutting my hair since grade 1, it was just not going to be cost effective, because he was in a different province. He said to me, I know that you guys are moving. When you get to there and there, this is a friend of mine, and I know that you will obviously refer me to somebody that will deliver the same quality of service I was used to getting from him at that stage. So that's what they refer to when what it refers to when it says develop an alternative context. Work on a network. Okay. Developing a logistical channel where none have existed before. It's also possible, yes, that you'll take on services that keeps the customers with you for longer, because you're offering additional channels that they would have to, or would in past have needed to go to a different supplier to get that additional service. It also ties in what we said on the previous page about services, combining their services and working together. It sounds like this day seems to never end, but we're almost done. Don't worry. Tips for services, for salespeople when they're selling services. Use brochures, photographs, videos. Your estate agents, those 360 virtual tours of the houses that they have on show. Add evidence of the performance. In other words, if there are people who have been successful or who support you, I mean, flaunt it. If the service is equipment-based, give the customer a demonstration. Very, very important. Let them see what benefit they will experience. Or if it's possible, let them even experience it themselves. Personal training services, good example. So I know, you know what, one thing, we don't talk money, you don't talk contracts, you don't talk anything. You give a free demonstration. Come walk with me. Or that's how you sell yourself. When the customer is busy training, assist them, start talking to them, help them, spot them with the next, when they do the next, when they're at the next apparatus. Spend 10, 15 minutes with them as they go through the routine, give some tips in between. And then say to them, you know what, I'm a personal service, we can do this on a regular basis, but I know you're concerned that it's probably going to be costly. Don't worry about the money at the moment. Let me just work with you for 2 weeks or so, and then you see if there's any benefits, and then we take it from there. So that's a free sample that you're offering of your service. Okay, let them experience the benefit, because then when it's not there anymore, they'll pay for it. Use price and other special incentives. Always very good. People are very price sensitive, especially nowadays. Prepare yourself physically and mentally for the peak demand periods. Oh yes. Don't, everybody is like, oh my goodness, it's level 1 now. No, you know it was always going to get back to level 1. Why are you not prepared? Inseparability of a service provider and the service product means that for many services calculated on an hourly or a daily rate. That is very true. The service very much can fluctuate. It's a, I don't know. I mean, any of you flew Cape Town, Johannesburg? Well, let's say pre-COVID, because when there weren't too much happening in the last 18 months in the airways. What can you remember? What was the, I can recall, and that was when Mango and all these airlines were still in the air about 4 or 5 years ago. They were offering prices of flying to, and that there was a new airline that came out just before COVID, and they were offering flights, Cape Town, Joey's, one way, I think it was $4.99 or something like that. Oh, that's, then I'll fly right and drive. People, and then yesterday I heard some shocking news. The world is open now to us. We're off the British red list, so people can travel here and we can travel there. If you've been vaccinated, you don't have to be quarantined and. But do you know what a flight for London, Cape Town would be at the moment? You know what the cost of a ticket would be? I know what it was. Anybody got any idea?
Jaco, what's the question?
Price of a flight ticket.
Now,
London, Cape Town.
London, Cape Town. I don't know, like 15, 16, 17, 20.
Yep, anything between 15 and 20. That's what it was pre-COVID. You know what the price is now?
No.
56,000 rand.
No ways, dude.
Serious. Supply and demand.
Gosh.
They can't fill their flights. They can't have as many flights as they always had. So the first people are going to get back into the first people are going to book tickets. I don't know. Somewhere it's a serious challenge, because for it to be cost effective, that's what they have to charge at the moment. It's not that they're trying to make up what they've lost as a result of COVID. That's just to keep it.
It costs so much money, and that's what you need.
Yes, that's what you need. Because I mean, if you've got 300 capacity on a jumbo, you can only have 150 now. So obviously, if 300 people were paying 10,000 rand, then obviously 150 people is now going to pay 20,000 rand. Otherwise, the flight is not cost effective. You can do it once or twice, but you can't do it forever because then you're going to run a loss, and that's a challenge. I'm not sure where aviation is going, people. I'm sorry. That's why I'm definitely. I've serviced my mountain bike on a weekend. I'm going to try different means of transport. That's not going to get me to London, however. But I can just imagine, and the reason why it's for me, it was a huge issue, and why I'm sharing it now is that my son he's graduating in a year. He's probably going to work in South Africa next year, but obviously they will eventually end up overseas. My youngest one is finishing school next year, and he wants to get out of this country as soon as possible, even study abroad if he can. But at that, I won't be able to afford to get him there at these prices, people.
Get him a mountain bike.
Oh, definitely. The chances that I'll be granddad by the time that he gets to London is very. No, it's people. And I know my flight. Just to put things in context, I was a first-year student in 1983 at Stellenbosch University. My entire first year of studies, my books, my books and my course fee for first year BCom in 1983 was 4,500 rand. My books and my studies, my accommodation cost me 500 rand a month.
Yeah.
Extra on that. So my total bill, people, geez, it wasn't even 7K. When I went to the UK and I finished my studies and I took a sabbatical year, not sabbatical year, took a year off to travel and to work and I ended up working and not traveling. My flight from Cape Town to London was less than 2,000 rand return.
Oh, man.
Open ticket, so that was a return ticket. I could come back at any time within a 24-month period. Wow. My return, that was a return ticket, not a one-way ticket, a return ticket. You're not going to get one-way tickets in 1988 anyway, because people, oh, where you want to go? Why don't you want to come back? Okay, so they only allowed you to book a return flight, but yeah, it's crazy if you put everything into context, people. I don't know, but we'll make a plan. It appears as if my son will probably have to wait a bit longer or get a bursary. Let somebody else pay for it. But anyway, it's just amazing how expensive it's become. I said, I listened on the radio yesterday, and when they discussed this, and I almost flipping drove into a ditch when I heard what the prices of air tickets are at the moment. But anyway, people, yes, offer promotions when the demand is low. But you can also offer only so many promotions if your flights are limited. If your capacity is limited. If you can fly on full capacity, it will be a total different story, because then you can offer promotions to get people excited to travel again. Anyway, use consulting skills to determine exactly what the customer needs. It is good, the surveys and to find out exactly what they are happy with or not. Very often, if you confront an individual customer yourself, they're not probably going to tell you. They won't be open and honest. They prefer somebody else to rather do and conduct that survey with them. Develop an attitude of measuring the quality of the service you are providing. That's very, very good to know. Put the measures in place, whatever they are. Surveys are very popular but keep it short. 2 questions, 3 questions. Somebody said to me the other day, "Are you prepared to quickly?" I said, Can you send me something and I can do it in my own time? Make sure that you, even when you're conducting a survey among your customers to determine how they rate your service, that particular survey does not negatively impact on how they rate your service. Anybody, any questions? Because we're done. Believe it or not, yeah? Any questions, anybody?
No, thanks. We're good. Thanks.
Good. If I'm correct, let me just check. We will chat to each other again tomorrow, third period.
I believe so, yeah.
3rd and the 5th tomorrow. Okay. We will see each other. No, we won't see each other. We'll chat to each other again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. I will upload all these things later during the course of the afternoon. And just again, to summarize the rundown of what to expect for the next, until next Friday, because that's the time that we still have before you go on study leave. Is you are going to, we're going to complete more than likely what we have to do in delivering the work this week still. Next week, the whole of Wednesday, the double period that we are currently engaged in, we're going to spend on feedback on your assignments as well as your test. Results, memos, it's part of your revision. It's the better part of the revision I can think of. We can go through the work again, but you know what? That's just repeating stuff and highlighting things. We'll still do that because we have enough. We've got 5 sessions next week that we can complete everything. But next Wednesday session is going to be devoted to the assessments that we've completed, to see where we've made mistakes. Use that as a platform to prepare us better for the summative in November. And the summative is November 19th. You all got your, who hasn't got correspondence from Stadio about your exam timetable? I think it was sent out about 2 weeks ago.
Now we got.
Okay, good. People, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Behave yourselves. Enjoy yourselves. Make good decisions. And we'll chat again tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Jaco.
Okay, keep well. Stay safe, guys.
You too, man.
Cheers.